What is a scary, unsettling fact about you? 1. I killed someone in self-defense, went through the entire court process with his family sobbing hysterically and never felt a single emotion about it. And I'm a pretty emotional guy. People process things differently. Given that this was self-defense, I don't think it's fair to judge you for feeling nothing. Could be your mind's defense mechanism to protect you from a traumatic situation. 2. Not sure if it's scary, but my dad OD'd on heroin and died. I probably could have saved him. I went downstairs at like 1 a.m. to get a drink and saw the bathroom door closed with the light on. I thought about pounding on the door to scare him, which is something I would do to mess with him. I walked up to the door, went to knock on it, but thought to myself, Nat, don't mess with him, and I walked away. Woke up later finding out he was dead from an OD. 3. I have unusually good night vision, extra cones rods. I forget which is for low light, which means I walk around in what other people consider complete darkness, able to see just fine. Get onto that in 6 minutes and 10 seconds and very large. Basically a cryptid. 4. Growing up, I had a recurring nightmare set in my grandparents' backyard, looking at the back of their house. There was just something off about the house. Something mildly sinister. I dreamt this over and over, many times over the years. In 2018, my dad, who now owned the house, went into the backyard to that spot and killed himself. I haven't had the backyard dream since. 5. I can ignore being tickled. Same. Annoys my wife and children to no end. 'Cause I'm an excellent counter tickler. Lol, my wife told me she wasn't ticklish, and I ended up finding a spot she didn't know about and she peed herself. Our puppy was so confused as he just disciplined for peeing on the carpet, and she did it right after, and just tilted her head, like WTF. 6. Not really scary or unsettling, but I do end up having to explain without trying getting into details to people why. I refuse to drink from any kind of retail item that is not translucent. For example, soda bear cans, Milk OJ cartoons, etc. People's curiosity compels them to ask me why when I tell them to let it be, and assuredly enough they never like the answer. I had deed mouse parts slide down my throat chugging a beer on a golf course. 7. My grandfather was murdered on the res by a skinhead dude who serial murdered native people and dropped them in the wilderness. It took them years to catch him. I was at his execution in another state. He deserved worse than falling asleep peacefully. I was a child mule in Detroit for 3 years. I made more money in 3 years than most people will see in a decade. I did some pretty scary stuff that I won't get into here that was under coercion. I'm not proud of it. It's scary what I've seen dudes do over money. I bought my mom a house because her husband was on oxys and gambled her life savings. Made sure my brother and sisters ate. Cash in my mom's glove box every week with a spare key. No questions. No answers. I dipped when stuff got real, pressured and scary for me to be promoted. I killed a man outside a bar in the defense of another person. The whole bar saw him drag his girlfriend out by the arm, and no one called police or followed. I was just there for dinner and not drinking. I had a legal piece in the car. I holstered up and went looking. Heard screaming from behind the gated dumpster. She was begging. His pants were down. I yelled at him to freeze. I yelled at him to lay down. He pulled his pants up and he had a knife in his hand. The girl was bleeding. He charged me, and I emptied a mag into him as soon as he wasn't in front of her. Broke my pistol down, put it on the pavement and called for the cops in an ambulance. Got arrested, but she testified, and he was on camera charging me with a big fucking boot knife. I didn't get charged because she was stabbed, bleeding, being assaulted, and he charged at me with a deadly weapon. I still think about it sometimes. I don't regret it. That was about 10 years ago. My wife and I got married 9 years ago. I've never told her. As far as she knows, I have a close female friend that lives in Alabama. It's not something that comes up in casual conversation. A BTW new girlfriend. I killed a dude. Now lol. I don't think it was necessary to talk about. I went to therapy and stayed quiet. That girl emails me every once in a while. She's healed, married, and happy. I visited her in the hospital for a while till her parents got here from Alabama. I went to her wedding a couple years ago. It was beautiful. Nice dude. I don't bother her. Her parents tried to give me some money, but I felt really fucking greasy about taking it, so I didn't. Kinda wish I had lately, haha. But still glad I didn't. No one knows I'm on Reddit, or I genuinely wouldn't say any of this here. I said it in some random group chats during therapy to get it out, and haven't really mentioned it until now, honestly. Thanks for asking the right question, I guess. I appreciate the platform, lol. 8. When I was 11, I witnessed my stepdad attack my mom. I was in my room and heard my mom yell scream, so I left my room to see what happened. When I stepped into the hallway, I could see partly into the kitchen, and she was standing with her back up against the corner of the countertop with a terrible look on her face and a swelling cheek. My stepdad was about 5 feet away with 3 long bleeding scratches down his cheek from where she retaliated. I guess I didn't know how to react, so I just turned around and went back to my room. The weekend I spent Friday night at my best friend's house. I knew his older brother had a .38 Chiefs special revolver in a hidden drawer he had built under his waterbed frame. Before I left, I stuffed the gun into my rolled-up sleeping bag. I chickened out that first night, Saturday, but Sunday night, around 2 to 3 a.m. I think, I took the revolver into their room and woke him up by jamming it under his chin. He woke up immediately and kind of reactively had pulled his head back away from the barrel. I pushed it harder into his throat and said something like, "Don't ever hurt my mom again or I'll kill you." I don't remember exactly what I said. I do remember feeling like the world was spinning 1,000 miles per hour around me and that I was weightless. I don't remember anything after saying that to him until I was back in my room. I dropped the gun on the floor and bursted into the hardest sobbing I've ever experienced. Seemed like it lasted for hours. I don't know how long I actually cried, but when I finally stopped, I was drenched in sweat tears down my entire front side. I put the gun in my backpack and snuck it back into that drawer under the waterbed 2 or 3 days later. The next time I was at my friend's house. Not a word was ever said about what I did by me or my stepdad, but as far as I know, he never touched my mom again. They divorced 3 or 4 years later. I ran into my friend's brother at a bar about 10 years later, and I told him about borrowing his gun thinking he would just laugh it off as me telling drunk bar lies. He did not. He believed me completely, even stated that sometimes when I was at their house, I would make little comments that his family understood to mean that my home life wasn't great. He's a big biker type guy, and he just grabbed me, pulling me off the bar stool, and hugged me for like 5 straight minutes. He was a great dude. This all sounds overdramatic after reading it back to myself, but it's written exactly as I remember it. Thanks for the chance to share this. Until now, my friend's brother and my stepdad were the only others who knew about it. 9. Was co-convicted of manslaughter with diminished responsibilities when I was 16. What happened? It was quite high profile at the time, in all the main newspapers, so I'll change a few details but give you the basis. A mutual friend of mine and my co-conspirator attacked my friend's young sister. We learned about it later in the day after it happened. We went to his home, argued with him, and then struck him once with the flat edge of a hammer. He died 3 to 4 days later after being put in a drug-induced coma. We were both arrested on murder and kept on bail for a year, whilst the CPS made their case. As we were both of decent homes with no previous, our lawyer argued anyone would do the same given the situation, so murder became manslaughter. Eventually, I was sentenced to 3 years, did 18 months, and my friend got 5 years and served 3. Although I never hit him, they argued I went along willingly, knowing that violence was probably gonna happen. That's why I got time even though I technically didn't touch him. N. This is a weird one, but I promise you, no bullshit. I had a metal screw bolt roughly 1.5 inches long stuck in my right lung from age 2 to 17. I must have put it in my mouth as a toddler, and it got there somehow. Anyway, the unsettling bit is that I always knew there was something seriously wrong with my body, because my whole life I would have instances in which I coughed uncontrollably, many times coughing up blood. Sometimes a little, sometimes a lot, but I never told anyone. Dad was neglectful and Mom was always working, so it was relatively easy to hide. If it happened at school, I'd excuse myself to the restroom until it stopped. No one ever showed concern those 15 years, so I guess I kept it to myself well enough. I never told anyone, because even as a small child I was very unhappy with life and wanted it to be over. I guess I figured my mystery illness would get me eventually, so I kept it a secret so I wouldn't get treated. It all came to a head at 17 when playing ball at the park with my parents, siblings, and some friends. I got a decent hit and ran around the bases when I started coughing. After sitting back down, I tried to hold it in, but I couldn't. And this time it was too bloody to hide and no bathroom to go to. So my step-uncle noticed after a minute or two. Everyone is crowded around me while I'm coughing up a shitload of blood in and around the trash can. My little brother told me after that they actually sent guys in hazmat suits to clean it up because they didn't know if whatever was wrong with me was contagious. But anyway, got to the hospital, got the x-ray which showed the screw lit up like Christmas imposed over my rib cage. Doctor guy just went, "Well, there's your problem." I guess he was trying to lighten the mood since everyone was understandably freaking the fuck out. 2 weeks of surgery, 3 total, and it was out. I still have breathing issues, but the cough is gone now. I made the screw into a necklace, which I wear sometimes because I find it oddly comforting to be reminded of my own mortality. I know that's weird, but it's just sort of how I am, all things considered. I never told my family I knew there was something wrong with me, because telling them would mean admitting to them that I wanted to die the whole time. I still struggle with mental health crap for this and many other reasons I won't get into, but things are a lot easier than they used to be. But anyway, if you actually took the time to read about my weird little life, I appreciate your time and hope your day is pleasant.